Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I had some mail today, two decks that I've been really waiting for almost a month for, and this is one of them, and this is the Messenger Cards, Guidance from the Animal Spirits by Sandra Kunz. And she's been painting animal spirit guides from 2005, and then decided to create an oracle deck. Sandra is a believer in the power of beauty and that it is nothing short of unfiltered and pure divinity. Beauty brings us to the present moment and has no worries of the past or the future. When we find beauty in something, we find the beauty in ourselves and our own light of divinity. That's quite lovely. It comes in this organza bag with this in here, as well as the cards, and this is the back of the cards. Now, I will say, and I've heard this from many other people, there's some communication issues in getting this. I did purchase this about nearly a month ago, and when I first ordered it, it was I believe $45. I ordered it off of her website. You can also order it off of Etsy, and off the website I got an instant automatic email saying that it would take about a week to ship and that I would get a message when it was shipped with information. I didn't hear anything for about 3 weeks. But I knew things were probably busy because Owl Moon, Racing from Owl Moon YouTube channel had posted about this and is doing an oracle workshop using these cards, and so that's why I bought these. These have been on my list for a while. I think I first saw them at Storytelling Tea and Tarot's website, and they've been on my list, but they weren't, I had other things that were above it. And then when I saw that she was going to do that and was promoting this, I was very much panicked that it was going to sell out. So even though I wasn't planning on doing the workshop, I definitely didn't want to miss out on the cards, because there's a lot of ravens in here which are quite powerful to me. As we can see right here with one of my lovely talismans that Foxfire gave me. But anyways, but then I didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. I emailed, didn't hear anything back. I emailed again a few days later, didn't hear anything back. And then they just came in the mail today. So communication is not so great. I think she could be overwhelmed, but I think that I've definitely heard a reoccurrent theme of lack of communication. And then there's been a lot of damaged cards. Mine were not damaged. The very first card, and I don't think you're even going to be able to see it, and I'm really not have any complaints about this, but there are some dings in it that are deep enough where you can feel them on the very first card. Almost like sort of like an even things around, almost like something stood on maybe the package. I'm not sure, but it's nothing. It even goes through to the other side because they're very thin cards. But that's it. That does not bother me. It's not something that I can't deal with at all. But the rest of the cards are, from what I could see, I haven't gone through them, one by one, because I wanted to do that actually looking at the cards. But from what I can see, that's the only thing, and that's purely something I can live with. Other people have had, quite a bit of damage on some of their cards. So I was a little nervous after taking this long to get to me that it was going to be damaged and have to go through that process. But that was not the case. So thankfully for that. So as I said, it came in a bundle with this kind of organza bag thing here. I'll put that up here. Let's take a quick look at the guidebook before we move on to the cards. It's a nice little, so this is a self-published deck, you can tell that, and that's fine, but it's certainly more than some that you get, so I appreciate this actually. So it talks about how to use the cards, and then it goes right into the cards. So for example, here we'll just read the first one. So I like to do that. So the first one is new creation, and that's the butterfly. Something new is birthing in your life and is waiting to break from the cocoon of gestation. This change is in your highest good, and allowing the change to happen instead of resisting it will bring a smooth transition. The energy of the butterfly suspended in blackness reminds us that we are the very source that created the universe. The butterfly in this picture represents creation, and the black background is the void where pure pure possibility exists to create what is new and in alignment with our higher selves. When we practice gently allowing what is currently happening to us to unfold without judgment and giving ourselves permission to fully experience what we are feeling in our body without getting pulled into our old thought patterns, we can start creating the new. This also allows us to experience life without reacting to every situation that is occurring around us and to live from the core of our true selves. Peace. Oh, sorry. The more we are open to the unlimited possibilities of the black void, the more abundantly, creatively, and quickly the universe can deliver our true heart's desires and our new selves are born. So there we have that. I do like the idea of the black void where pure possibility exists, because I've always been highly resonant with with darkness and blackness. When I think of healing light, back long time ago when I was really struggling with night terrors and a lot of things were going on that I'm not going to get into. Without even knowing it, because at that time I had no experience with anything outside of from fundamental Christianity, let alone any kind of esoteric or metaphysical kind of things. And I worked out a breathing exercise for myself where I would inhale and kind of vision darkness at the top of my head, and then kind of pushing it all the way through my body, and that kind of leaving behind peace when I was really completely freaking out. I've seen it later, later on when I was checked into those things. A lot of times people use a white light to press through, but for me it's always been darkness, and I have poetry about sort of that soothingness of darkness. So I quite like that, and the card is just stunning. I'll zoom in on the cards in a minute. I just wanted you to hear. So then it moves on from there, and it has, of course, for each of the cards. Most of them are within one page. Some of them go over a little bit. Some of them are smaller. So it kind of varies. But this seems to be about the smaller of them. Let's see if there's anything at the end of it. Nope, and then that's it. So there's no spreads or anything like that. It does say over here on how to use it, kind of pulling it in terms of almost meditative, but then also that you could use the cards the same way you would a tarot deck with different card spreads, but there's no spreads that are given within the book itself. So, some self-published decks I've seen with a lot less going on than that, so I will take it. As for the cards themselves, let's zoom in here. They definitely have some sheen to them. There's definitely gloss to them. And you can certainly see the edges with the cutting. Some of them you can see some white edges where they haven't maybe been cut all the way, but it's nothing to me that's obnoxious. It's not great cardstock. It's thin, but it's that kind of thin that you kind of know isn't super great cardstock, but I think they're going to probably shuffle really nicely. In terms of size, let me see. Here's the animal totem, which would be a Llewellyn card. It's a little bit shorter than a Llewellyn card, as well as obviously wider. So they're quite square. I like it. I like that that's a little bit of a different kind of configuration or size and shape that you normally get with an oracle deck, because that's going to look really nice with a variety of other decks, I think, just with the different sizes. I do like that. So here we have number 1, which is new creation. So, of course, the point of these are really about, whoa, I'm taking things off my head, and my glasses are falling on my head. The point of these cards are to tap into, these are really getting messages from your spirit guides. That's kind of the point of this. So I'm anticipating there's probably not a lot of shadow in this deck. But there could be, I'm not sure. And you can read things intuitively too. If you've got this darkness and the light coming out of it, depending on the question and the situation, that could be rising out of a dark period. There's a lot of ways that you could read these depending on the question, I'm going to guess. But here we have new creation. I love this. This is Heart of Fire. Let me see. I'm going to get these so I can at least kind of. So this is about having a heart that is open in any situation, being open to things. So that's great. I love the colors here. Now, from what I understand, these are pieces of art that she has done across over many years. Didn't make them especially for an oracle, but the difference being that these paintings were painted in the mindset, in the spirit of channeling and or tapping into the spirit messages from spirit animals. So the intention was already there in an oracle sense. So the cards, I think, inherently have that sense of an oracle about them. So and she wrote it about, you know, what they meant to her. And so it's a little bit different than just random artwork that's been, you know, kind of fitted into an oracle. So I think that makes it what's different about another pre-existing artwork type deck, because they were intended to be oracle, and I think you really get that energy. So this one is really about living with your hearts open, and that requires trust. And in a sense, it also it requires strength. And so this is what she talks about with this card, is that idea of being both strong and vulnerable at the same time. So wolves and ravens are very powerful images for me. Very powerful, what I would consider to be my kind of totem animals or my spirit animal type connection through my whole life. This is quite, and I talk a lot about this in my practice with clients about needing to live, kind of move forward in life with your chest open up and be open, but at the same time being strong, and how difficult that is, because that's something that I've worked with my whole life. That it's very easy when life kind of keeps slapping you upside the head. It's really easy to shut down and not be able to fully experience life because you've been hurt too much and you shut down. It's very understandable. It's a very human reaction. But at some point we have to kind of open up, or we're going to miss out on so much in life. And so this to me is a very powerful card. Here we have the Illusionist with a dragonfly. I have been quite connected with the imagery of dragonflies. They've been cropping up here and there for me. Someone had posted on a Facebook group where dragonflies can indicate kind of a message from people who have passed beyond, just kind of saying, hello, you know, we're watching you. So I quite like that. But this is interesting because this card here, it talks as we're powerful creators of our life experience. It talks a lot about reclaiming the lost parts of our soul one piece at a time. So I quite like this because, you know, it's not that it's a shadow card, just in terms of, say, loss or something like that. However, it's talking about those difficult parts where we have broken or missing pieces of ourselves, and that we have to begin to release the power that those broken pieces have over us, and just kind of having grace in the journey. So it acknowledges those, and in that process of moving forward and healing. So I quite like that. It's very healing energy from the cards, but not that kind of rah-rah, everything's wonderful. And that's the problem that I have more with affirmation decks. It is not that they're positive or healing, but that sometimes it's like everything is just as it should be. Everything is perfect as it is. You know, you are right where you need to be. Everything is wonderful as it is. Versus, you know what? Things have been really tough. There's broken things in you, but you can move forward. I think I'm coming down with a spring cold. Our weather has been moving so from warm to cold, that everybody's getting sick. And I think I have had to keep stopping the video because I start coughing as I'm talking. But we are going to power through this because I want to see the cards. So anyway, so that's, to me, there's a difference between being healing and supportive, but acknowledging the hard parts, and being too, like, cheerleadery for me. So that's quite, I like to see that. Here we have number 4 as the fertile ground. So as you can see, these have both numbers and names, which I like. The numbers obviously make it easy to find in the book. Of course, it could also be alphabetical, but I also like there to be inclusions of numbers, to be honest, because sometimes I use that numerologically. So this is about, I love this because this says, often we look to the past or the future for happiness and fulfillment when it really exists within ourselves in the present moment. So I love that. The elk is gazing at the moon and black sky with full surrender and peace. At the same time, he has his feet firmly planted on the ground. That life offers us when we let go and allow ourselves to just be. He's just being in the moment. And I really do like that about the guidebook. You know, obviously we're just looking at this together, but as you just read, you know, it talks about things in the, oh, this is about the universe and creating our surroundings and that kind of thing. But then it actually does give us, you know, directly about the image so that we can see what it is that the artist saw, because she did write these with these or she painted these with these messages in mind. And so being able to touch into that really helps me. I really enjoy to see that. Now, I may get something different out of what I see sometimes. However, just knowing that really helps, that sense. Now you can really see this is an animal whose feet are firmly planted in the ground, but it's gazing up at the moon and simply being, and it's not stressed in any way, and is just being in the moment. And so that can really stick with you. Here we have the evolution card, and we have a jaguar here and a hummingbird. It says that the hummingbird and the jaguar represents the masculine and feminine energy within us, and they are in harmony and in balance with each other. So that's really wonderful. This represents one aspect of our evolution, collectively and individually. The masculine and feminine energy is evolving into one of balance and deeper connection. Obviously, I can't read all of these, but I'm just trying to touch on them because it's not as long as a tarot deck. So I think we can get away with that a little bit more. Here we have our sacred selves. This is the dove. It's about us all having a sacred space within us that contains our essence. It's where we find peace amongst the chaos of the world. So that's gorgeous. Here we have number 7, balance. So we do have now in this deck, it is not just like one animal per card. We have butterflies showing up. I think we have more than one wolf. We have, I know, multiple ravens and crows, that kind of things. So it's more about the energy than of the card message it has to bring than it is to be about you know, getting into different individual animals. So some people may or may not like that, you know, depending, but that is kind of a factor there. So here we have obviously another butterfly, and it's balance. And I love the white and the dark, the kind of the black in the butterfly and the white here. And so we have that sense of balance and taking care of our whole selves and such like that, and goes on talking about balance. Here we have trust yourself. I love this. Paying attention to your intuition, trusting that you know what's good in your highest good. It talks about the medicine of owl is that of clear, unwavering knowing, and to trust that knowing. So I think that's really beautiful. Here we have being, which is another dragonfly card. So we had the one dragonfly, and we have another one. This is about the water and the sky appear to be one, because it starts off in the water and moves into the sky, and that's what I really love about the dragonfly imagery. There's a lot you can do with that, and so that's that one. Here we have self-love for the raven. So the raven's looking at his reflection in the water, and he's seeing the truth of who he is, kind of accepting who he sees there. Here we have the raven breaking free. What if we allowed ourselves to be so different that we firmly belong? So it's like, this is about living outside of your social conditioning. This to me is an absolutely gorgeous image. The detailing on the wings, just gorgeous. And then the sky background, it's beautiful. Here we have Grace, the swan, and it's sometimes, I saw this one before and I wasn't entirely sure what I was seeing, but here is the swan's face right here. So this is a little bit more abstract feeling, but Grace lets us know that at all times it's okay to be who we are, make mistakes, find perfections in our mistakes, forgive ourselves, that kind of thing. But grace is a beautiful word, and you do think about grace with swans. Here we have alchemy, which I love. We have, I'm assuming, is a bison. Yes. Bison pounds his hoofs into the ground. He transformed the dust into flames of gold. All that is required is sincerity. So it's about transmuting energy to manifest what we desire. This is one that feels a little bit like this is an image that I don't know about this one as much, although this is message that she was getting, so this is what she saw from this, but so she maybe had, I have to read a little bit more about her process here, but I know that I read that this was, these paintings weren't just done randomly, they were done as kind of her tapping into these messages. So we can see a bison that is trampling the ground, and we can see kind of gold coming up here, and so it is that kind of transmutation of power into manifestation. So here we have another butterfly. Know that it is done. So it's almost like maybe this butterfly has freshly come out of the cocoon, and is, how they kind of stand there sometime with their wings up, getting their wings to be dry. But it talks about knowing what you really want within yourself, and then that's going to help for it to come to pass. Although that I would probably work with this a little differently, just based on the know that it's done versus the knowing, what you manifesting what is inside of you, because sometimes that's a little bit problematic. We can really have a deepest desire in our heart, and it's not necessarily going to come to pass in all reality. So but that's a whole nother conversation. Here we have another Raven card as the leader. It's about following your own passion and instincts, and to live a life that no one has lived before you, to really shine your light, and that inspires other people. I have, when I first left a very long term marriage, kind of made a decision to need to follow my path towards a little bit more peace and happiness. A friend had painted me a very simple, it was just on like book on paper that was kind of decoupaged, I guess, onto a canvas, and it says you have to be brave with your life so that others can be brave with theirs. So this kind of reminds me of that. Here we have a message of love. This is a hummingbird. This can be all kinds of things. But she has, when it seems our resources have run out despite our best efforts, when we are overwhelmed and think that life has handed us too much, when our actions and beliefs are met with doubt, when our body is physically ill, when we have forgotten to trust that our path is leading us to where we want to go, when we feel that we are not enough, when we forget who we are and the power we possess as co-creators, we mistakenly think that we are here to navigate through life on our own. And so this is just a message of that you're not alone, and it's a message of love. So that's quite lovely. The beat of your drum, the woodpecker. This is our own, finding our own rhythm and living in synchronicity with that rhythm. I quite love that. So that's kind of like following your bliss with Joseph Campbell. Here we have Mother Earth, the turtle. When we release and cleanse, we can give our negative energy to Mother Earth. So she can take it. You can put, kind of release that in to Mother Earth, return the things to Mother Earth and thank her. And she can take that energy and kind of turn that into whatever, because it's all just energy. It's not good or bad for Mother Earth. So that's I like that. That's interesting there, because I do a lot of that type of releasing thing, kind of release it into the ground, release it into water. And I like what she writes here, that the earth, however you see the earth, is all made up of energy, and to that bigger sense of being, the bigger universal, all energy is just energy. It's not necessarily connotated as good or bad. And so you can go ahead and release that so that it can kind of be used in other ways than bringing you down. Here we have owning your own power with the Raven. It's telling us to stand fully in your power as the being of light that you are. Don't be distracted from your truth. So it is different than the leader. Although again, I think that you really do need to give this guidebook a good read. I mean, you can obviously do things with this intuitively, and we obviously have the owning your own power right here. We have the leader, so the keywords do help also. But I think giving this book a good read, personally, I think that is a good start for this deck, just to kind of get a feel for where she was going. This is gorgeous. Pearls of Wisdom, another Raven card. So you can see why I really wanted this deck. Now, so some people, this many ravens is going to be problematic, but for me, it's part of the reason that I wanted the deck. So wisdom and universal truth are at every moment accessible to us. We need to only ask and listen. So I love that. The destiny of one. Here we have the spider. As I heal for everyone. When I am connected with the infinite essence within me, everyone and everything is affected as we are all concerned. This one had a very Buddhist feel for me. Even the way of weird. Bram talks a lot about the web and how things that we affect on our piece of the web resonate out and affect other people down the road. And so while it feels like our life is a destiny of one, it's actually connected to so many other things. And the work that we're doing to make ourselves better people is going to spread out and impact other people. And conversely, the things that we do negatively ourselves is also spreading out and putting that out into the world as well. And so I quite love that idea there of connection. Here we have the creative force, 3 ravens. And so, 2 going to 1 or 2 going to 3 is that sort of, the number 3 is a creative number for numerologically. And so we can see that working as a community, building a community, creating a community, all these kinds of things that can go with that. So I think that's gorgeous. Living your own potential, and it also has a sub name here as the dream of Ra, another raven, listening to the voice within us to hear our higher self. So this one is kind of tapping into the higher, more divine aspect of ourselves here. Love this, because again, wolves being another one of my animals. We have the gentle Arctic wolf with a heart of fire is here to guide you on your biggest adventure. What is your deepest desire? So a lot about, I think, finding your bliss and following that. But this talks to the journey. So I think that's wonderful. This is talking about being open to the journey and being vulnerable as well as strong. And then this is kind of going on the journey itself. Here we have the blue jay with the kingdom. I love this because it's abundance. In here it says the abundance. He is abundance. Like, I don't know if you've watched blue jays. We have a lot of blue jays around where I grew up, and they are so bossy and so confident and so he wants everything. He sees wonderfulness in everything and is willing to fight for it. It just has such a over-the-top personality that I think that's pretty cool, because he's kind of ruling the kingdom here. Here we have the messenger as the white raven. So this is the back of the card here. And this is about that we all have our own unique message of healing that we can sing. Our own individual brand of love that comes from the very center of our souls. So I think that's wonderful. What is our message? What are we sending out on the web? What is the message that we have to send out? Are we sending out the message that we want to, or are we sending out a message that we really don't want to be sending out? There's so much that I think you can do with that. Here we have the truth of others in the raven. This is about relationships, one-on-one relationships. But not to focus so much on the journey of the other, as well as just staying true to our own path. So that's quite lovely there. We have new beginnings as the frog. So this is about cleansing. Releasing and cleansing can give us new perspectives, and having a playful nature of a child and full of curiosity. This looks like big eyes, looks like full of curiosity. Think of those little cute tree frogs, and so you kind of get that Six of Cupsy feel. Just kind of going off, coming onto the very edge of a thin stalk to check out what's going on in the world, and sort of having that energy there. Oops. Here we have another dragonfly, faith and trust. So about being stewards of our own energy and having a choice about whether we're going to focus on not working or with faith and trust. We can follow our passion. It's about following our passion and trusting. There's a lot to do with trust in here, which I think is also about being open and vulnerable. So I think this is going to be quite a healing deck. This is so sweet. Life is simple, the otter. You know, again, otters, you think about playfulness, very much the spirit of the tree frog, in the sense of having fun is important to us. It takes us out of the past and the future and allows us to live in the now. That's what play does, and I think that's wonderful. That's a really good message that says, you know, take time out to play, because it roots us in the here and now in a beautiful way. I love that. Here we have Gentle Awakening, the white deer. This is kind of coming out of deep sleep. I've experienced this, and sort of when you come out of this deep sleep, what is it that you discover? Calling upon deer medicine means that we can gently gaze upon our shadows with compassion and understanding of the bigger picture. And like children, these shadows aspects of ourselves need only love and attention to transform into amazing, wondrous expressions of who we really are. So again, while I feel like this is a very affirming deck, this is, you know, because this is messages from our spirit guide, so it's not going to be negative messages, but it's acknowledging the painful processes and trying to give you a movement forward and out of them. So that's what I appreciate about this particular deck. Here we have a buffalo, deep self-respect. Are you listening? What is your soul asking you this very moment? What is your soul asking you from this life experience? And are you willing to follow this guidance down your true path? Integrity, impeccability, and compassion is what the white buffalo stands for. Here we have another hummingbird. We have the joy of right now. Again, lots of living in the now, which is something that I'm very much a proponent for. Living in the past, other than to do the work to healing, and living in the future, both of them can cause problems, and that we do need to live in the future. We do need to live in the present. Don't listen to me. Do as I do, not as I say, right? Or something along that line. So there we have that. I do love these black and white sketches mixed in with that. I know some people won't, but I do. Here we have the freedom for the eagle. Of course, as an American, that's very much, you know, a symbol of freedom would be the eagle, and that may be in other places as well. But I certainly resonate that as a symbol for freedom. And that getting up in a way, that's another thing I like what she writes about, though, is that the eagle is soaring up high, but it's able to focus in on details. So getting that height and perspective so that you can see the details is quite beautiful. Another butterfly, inspired action. It's time, the time has come to take action. At this moment, not taking action would be more stressful than just doing it. So this is saying it's just time to do it. I don't really see that in this image, to be honest, but because of the words here, it's, you know, it's pretty easy to tap into that and say that you've got everything that you need. It's time to do it, and you're going to not doing it is going to cause more problems than it is. Than in doing it. I love that there's a swallow here. A swallow is a bird that I'm tempted to get a tattoo of. Although I do kind of think of this as a swallow, as it's not necessarily. So I mean, there's a lot you can do with the understanding of rising above, but it talks about calling on the swallow for assistance to rise above your circumstances so you can see the miracle of this moment. Another butterfly here. We have allowing, that we work hard to find a clarity and to set clear intentions, but sometimes when what we desire actually starts to show itself in our reality, fear can set in and we resist what we know is our highest good. This stops the manifestation in its tracks and takes us back into our comfort zone. That's interesting there. And that we do have to surrender to it, even though the process might make us feel vulnerable. There's a lot about living in the moment. There's a lot about feeling, moving down the path towards manifesting what it is that we want, and how to react to when different things happen with that. So I quite like that. I don't think that the images always speak to what the card is representing. Because I think that this image itself doesn't have to be the one to say that particular message, but that's the particular message she got when she was doing this painting. So I do think the guidebook is important, and the keywords are important, because it doesn't always reflect itself in the image, although the image doesn't, I think, clash with it. It just doesn't always, we can't just see this, I think, and think about that, what that message is of the card. That's not a negative to me. It just means it's maybe, this would be a guidebook that probably sits on my reading table for a while I get used to this particular deck. I love this compassion with the two ravens, and them gazing at each other and just sitting with each other. It just, to me, is about holding space, and I love it. Release the past, another butterfly. If we live in the past or worry about the future, we're walking shadows of ourselves instead of experiencing our now. Yeah, got the message. We have another community card. Now let's take a look. We have one other one that seems to talk about community, which is the creative force. We have both of these. We have 3 ravens in it. So in this one, we have, oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. We have 4 ravens, it says. I see 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4. So this is about support and love that you seek at this moment can be found in your community, whereas the creative force is about creating a community. We are here to create. At times we create as individuals, and other times we create as individuals collaborating with others. These creations have a life force of their own. So this is quite different, actually, than this. So that's good. I just wanted to touch on that because they seemed similar. Here we have a beautiful horse across the sky. The medicine that horse offers us is the balance of wisdom, magic, humility, humor as we step into the infinite I am power. It's time to step out into the world and be seen for who we are. Then we have the not the last card. The 42 is the bear enter the cave. To know the deepest part of your being is to know that we are the source of creation. Do not fear yourselves. It's kind of this kind of going deep, going internal. Enter the cave of yourself, maybe, and come out and know yourself. It's about self-discovery, kind of hermity feel to that, which I think is gorgeous. And then we, of course, have a stunning raven as the 43rd card and last card of the Keeper of Magic. And I think this is gorgeous with the details on the wings. Is beautiful. Raven is the messenger from the black void of pure creation, and Raven knows that all is well. All will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. That's my motto. And so to have, the Keeper of Magic as a raven, which is one of my totems, and to say all is well is, to me, very powerful. That's going to be a very, very powerful card for me. So, gorgeous. So, let's just see in retrospect here. We definitely, I think, have the most ravens. And again, this is going to be a problem for some people. For me, this is why I wanted the deck. So, we all kind of come at these things with our different reasons. And so for me, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 out of 43 are ravens. The next most, I think, repeats of creatures, so to speak, or animals, are butterflies with 2, 4, just only 6. So there's definitely a lot, which is, again, this is why I bought it. I really wanted this. I wish there had been more wolves. There are 2 wolves. I wish there was more. There are 3 dragonflies, which again, I'm also quite happy about because I've been kind of working with this energy. There are 3 kind of hummingbird cards, although this has a jaguar in it as well. And I think that's it on the repeat. You know, there's lots of birds, but there are different kinds of birds. That's a white buffalo. I love this. Again, multi birds, but that's not a repeat. That is, I think this was a bison, and the other is a white buffalo. So yeah, so these are the repeat animals. So that does come up, so I wanted to at least discuss that. We have 3 dragonflies, 2 wolves, 6 butterflies, and then 12 ravens. And of course we have even on the back the raven. Again, plus for me, but I want to make you at least aware of it. So I think this is really gorgeous. Again, I don't think that always the image is speaking to, you know, I don't think without this, I don't think I could look at this and see release the past. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that the image themselves evoke the meaning all the time. I think there's much you can do between the name and the image. I feel like there's a lot you can do by itself without even looking anything up. But I think that this is one that you would benefit from. I would, because I don't always do that. I would benefit from going through the guidebook. Now, these are squares, so they're a little bit awkward to shuffle, but because the cardstock is thinner, you can rifle shuffle it. And obviously you can overhand shuffle. You can see that I have some already whopper-jawed. They do have a slip to them because they are glossy, but they're not sticky. Because some cardstock that's got gloss, but they do spin, and so that's why, like, I didn't shuffle that way. It was just because it was easy to spin them. But again, that to me is not a problem. I'm just pointing it out. So they're definitely slightly awkward, especially if you had small hands. I could see these being a little bit awkward to shuffle, but I won't have a problem. Actually, they shuffle better that way. I was trying to shuffle them this way. They don't have as much of a bow as they do this way. Didn't really think about that. I guess with cardstock, there's probably, like fabric, there is a, what is that called? A weft and a, I don't know, going with the grain sort of thing. So yeah, they shuffle much easier that way. You get more of a bend. Okay, so now with oracle cards, you know, this is something I probably would pull at the end of a reading. I probably wouldn't do an entire reading with just these cards. However, I might for for 3 cards. So for oracle cards, I generally don't pull more than 3, other than oracle systems. But just straight up like affirmation-y type oracle cards, I don't normally read that way. So this is how I would probably do, is mostly with a 3 card. So we could do this in terms of, and we'd have to almost have a question, but we have this gentle awakening. This is somebody who's coming awake and starting to recognize their shadow selves and needing to have faith and trust in the process as they move forward, as well as needing to accept help from people around us and make sure the people that are around them are going to be supportive. Because this card, if you remember when we read about it, really was about, you know, this fresh awakening, but then there's all this whiteness here, but there is also an awakening to the understanding of the shadows, our shadows parts, and so that is going to be new, and you're going to feel also very vulnerable when you're gently and new awakening kind of feeling, and that there needs to be faith and trust in the process and moving. That's just without even really looking up each one of the cards. So I really am pleased with these. I was starting to get a little bit iffy about them. Let's just pull a couple more. Having grace as a leader is always a good thing. Whoops. and then that creative force, because of course if you're a leader, we know there's more going on. You're leading somebody, there's more people, and having grace as the leader and understanding the creative force of collaborating with other people. So I think there's quite a lot of messages. I could also see this as a card, very wonderful for simply cards that you pull and set with the message. For single card pulls, I think there's going to be a lot to be done with this in terms of a daily pull in order to set with a message for the day. I think this would be wonderful that way, and as well as a message, kind of from your higher self, from your spirit guides, from your animal guides, at the end of a reading. So that's how I see myself using these. I think they're stunning. I'm really pleased with them, and there we have it. So this has been a look at the Messenger Cards, Guidance from the Animal Spirits by Sandra Kunz. I will say that because I think of Owl Moon doing this Oracle workshop with these cards, I think that the creator has become a little bit backed up with them. I think that there's going to definitely need some patience in getting them, but not everybody, a lot of people have, but it's not necessarily the case, but I'm just giving you that heads up. It may, if you get these, you may have a little bit of patience. Not too thrilled with the communication aspects. I think that that's something that's really important. If something's going to take longer, that's great, but let's have communication. It's easy to get overwhelmed though, and that I am certainly guilty of. So I can certainly appreciate that as well. But that kind of message is kind of getting out there. I'm seeing a lot of that, and so that's not always a great thing to have start to go be bandied about. So something to be aware of. If you're waiting for yours, it might just come randomly like mine did. And I will say that it was well worth the wait. These are stunning. They kind of remind me of soul cards in a sense. Just the feeling that they evoke. But yeah, these are gorgeous cards and I'm thrilled. So I hope you enjoyed this. Have a wonderful day.